Hello everyone, welcome to my channel, and today I have a video that I think a lot of people should watch because they probably didn't write a really good thank you email after an interview. So a lot of times, like whenever I see people write their interviews, it seems to be very template-like everyone has copy-pasted, but there's so many ways where you can actually make an impact. And in some situations, you may actually be able to overturn the decision that maybe the interviewer has made. So keep in mind in terms of what actually is the norm when it comes to the thank you email for your particular job, because the one I'm going for will be super tailored and very good for those competitive, high-level professional jobs. So we're going to be going over a very successful thank you email. When I'm saying successful, I'm talking about one that actually received a reply, and a positive one, and actually ended up getting the job. So we're going to be going over the one I made for Accenture. I made about four of them if you include the recruiter, for each of the actual interviewers that I had. So the first one I'm going to be showing you is going to probably be the one that I think it personally was the best. This is the one where I actually did a behavioral interview. So this is the person that I actually did a first round behavioral interview as a college student. So at this time I was actually a senior in Boston University. It was the first semester in, I think it was October actually. So we were doing interviews, and the first one was actually a behavioral interview. So first off, we're gonna go over how to open your thank you email. The first thing you wanna go over is what exactly should the subject be of the thank you email. So the first thing I wanna go over is how do you even get this contact information? And there's really two ways. One is simply just asking them, what is your email address, or what is your contact information? And you should be doing this during your interview. I usually do this at the very end before we close up and say, hey, thank you so much for having me, and I would love to have your contact information, so if I have any other questions, I can reach out to you. So I typically would use that, not only just to send a thank you email, but also a closing question. So it's not necessarily just using that kind of question just to get a thank you email out. I use that to also try to wrap it up with a question or even a conversation starter. So that way it's not just here's a thank you email that is just pulled out of nowhere. It actually shows you probably paid attention during your interview. So the first thing I want to show you is this did not use any template. I write everything from scratch. The subject I usually do is thank you so much, dash, and then I write your full name. So that way they have an idea from before, your actual email address. Maybe it's not so clear that who it is. So I actually put on the subject just in case, so it jogs their memory okay, I either know this person or I don't. And then in the actual email, I always go hello, blah, blah, blah. I don't go dear. I don't go anything super fancy to whom it may concern or whatever. That just doesn't sound personal. So I always do hello. I use their first name. I actually know some people that use their last names for example, Mr. Smith or Mrs. Smith. Don't do that. If you don't actually hear them introduce themselves as Mr. or Mrs. Smith, don't use that. So that's a huge thing when it comes to emails. For example, if my interviewer is Jane and then she says, hello, my name is Jane Smith, you would call her by Jane. You won't call her Mrs. Smith. So in the email, I would say, hello, Jane. And then the actual opening is thank you so much. And then you kind of give some context about what it was. So maybe it would jog his or her memory about how they even found you. So in this case, I would say, thank you so much for coming out to BU today, for having a conversation about Accenture and about yourself despite your busy schedule. So you have to know that people who do these interviews do not do this as a living. They do this on the side of what they do. So you want to thank them for that. And it was a great pleasure to learn that you used to work with blah, blah, blah. So this is kind of how I know her, and she would know that it's for sure for me. And we actually worked with the same person. She worked with him years ago. I was currently working with him at that particular time of the interview. And to learn more about you on a personal level, such as Rhode Island and ASL. So that was to kind of pull into what exactly did I learn from her? What made her different from all the other interviewers? Because you want to make sure it didn't seem like copy paste from all the other interviewers. And then the second paragraph is exactly telling them exactly what did I like from the interview, what did I learn? Because again, an interview is not just about what they think about you, it's also what you think about them. And this is a perfect opportunity to kind of also say oh, because of my background in data analytics, I was really interested in this particular area, and then you want a little bit more information in this area. So this was really cool. I mentioned Project 8 initiative in this at the time, and this was something that would show, okay, you paid attention and you actually are like, if they weren't completely sure about why Accenture or why data analytics or whatever, you know, like those big behavioral questions, you could tie it in all over here. It's kind of like another pitch for some case. And this is a really cool way to kind of show exactly like why is Accenture or data analytics in this case or consulting is a big fit for you and why they should consider you. So almost like another proposition to them. Then I ended it off in terms of like, what is the call to action? I end every thank you email with a call to action, whether or not it's like asking for suggestions or advice, feedback or question. Mostly I like to end with a question. However, because actually that very weekend, I was going to Rhode Island for fun, just like to meet up with my boyfriend because we were doing long distance. I was in Boston, he was in New York. We were just going to meet up in Rhode Island just for fun as like a little date. When we were talking about like, oh, how was your weekend? Or like, what are your plans for it? And then I saw like, I talked about how I was actually gonna be going to Rhode Island that weekend. And she mentioned how she's from Rhode Island. So we actually talked about like, okay, what are some possible things that I could do? Because I was open to all these suggestions. So that last call to action was exactly like, thank you so much. I'm gonna go head out to this place, or like if you have any other suggestions as well, let me know. And in that very email, she actually sent me a whole Word document or Excel sheet. I was like, wow. So it shows that she actually cared. She made an effort, which means it's a positive result from the email. And then you also want to end out like, I hope to hear from you soon. And once again, thank you so much for coming out today. I enjoyed our conversation today. I learned a lot about Accenture and about you. It's not just about Accenture, it's also about the interviewer. I hope you have a great weekend, and I will keep in touch with you. So actually, when I say I will keep in touch with you, you want to follow through. I know so many people who say I will keep in touch with you, never did. But what I ended up doing is like, as you go later down in the process, if for example, you got an offer, I actually send an email to every person I've actually interviewed or like been interviewed with, and actually tell them about the process and say, thank you so much, I got it. I don't exactly think they get a notice about who exactly got the offer. So telling them again will be really cool, because then they really get the satisfaction of like, thank you so much, like I actually made an impact. And when you started, like you can actually get started with the dialogue in terms of if you're not entirely sure about this particular job, or maybe just in general, like you have any questions about Accenture in this case, or this particular job, or if they can connect you to anyone that knows anything about this particular area you were assigned to. This was the perfect opportunity to kind of bridge that gap. So a thank you email is not the end goal, kind of like an intermediary that pushes through more progress and more conversations for later on. And even so, if you did not get the job offer or internship offer, you can use that same thank you email and actually comment and say, hey, like I want to know for any feedback in the future. I was rejected for this job position or this internship position, and I wanted to gather feedback. Sometimes it may actually not be about the interview. It could be about simply maybe someone else is better, because maybe other people that were interviewed were actually like probably a better fit for the job or the internship. I would love to hear exactly what you guys have used in your thank you emails. I'm gonna link down all of the examples of thank you emails that have worked and gotten responses, and maybe that can help you craft it through, because every time I see someone trying to write a thank you email, it's so boring and generic. It seemed like copy paste, and all they did was change the name. You want to really fine tune it, thank them, like truly thank them, and then also kind of remind them who you are, and then have a call to action of a question, suggestion, advice, feedback, anything like that. And then it will truly give you a really good experience. Maybe even push the envelope to change their decision if they haven't made it already, in terms of if they should consider you, because especially in a field like consulting, that's where everyone wants to be like very fine-tuned, client-facing, and a really good email will show that you can do that, and even have like a really good professionalism compared to another working professional. Thank you guys so much, and comment down below if you have any questions about this, or if you have any other suggestions. I would love to hear how your thank you emails have been, if anyone has responded, like what is something that has come out that was maybe surprising to you. Let me know down below, and thank you guys so much, and see you guys next time. Bye!